A long time ago, a number of routes were etched on this planet, spanning 8,000 kilometers on land and sea. They became a vibrant pathway for trade, for sharing goods, people, ideas, and cultures. It was called the Silk Road. In 2013, one man decided to revive it. He called it the Belt and Road Initiative. He saw it as his road to riches and legacy. He roved in several countries. Together, they account for 40% of the global GDP, 65% of the world's population, and 75% of the known energy reserves. They launched multiple projects, a highway in Pakistan, a new seaport in Sri Lanka, a forest city in Malaysia, a hydropower plant in Uganda, a motorway in Serbia, and these are just a few of the examples. As we speak, roads, railway lines, shipping routes, ports, oil refineries, industrial parks, and power plants are being built in at least 72 countries. It's a massive initiative, and yet the Belt and Road is fast turning into Belt and Road blocks. Xi Jinping's superhighway to world power is riddled with potholes. Hello and welcome to Gravitas Plus. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay. It's time we discuss the Belt and Road Initiative and why it's failing. The BRI is the brainchild of the Chinese president. In China, it is called Yi De Yi Lu. For the sake of comprehension, we'll stick to the BRI. It's the most ambitious, extensive, and expensive project in the world. The estimated cost is said to be between $1 and $8 trillion. For perspective, only 16 countries in the world have a GDP above that figure. So how did the BRI begin? Which countries are a part of it? Is it just a plan for economic integration, or is it a tool to secure strategic goals? And most importantly, is it sustainable? The questions are complex. We'll keep the answers simple. In October 2013, Xi Jinping was giving a speech in Kazakhstan. He mentioned the ancient Silk Road and floated the idea of unifying global markets. 1 month later, he went to Indonesia and spoke about a maritime Silk Road. This is how he floated the idea of Belt and Road. The belt refers to the land routes, to this network of multiple economic pathways. The road refers to a maritime network, to these shipping lanes running from China through Southeast Asia, Africa, and all the way to Europe. The belt is made up of 6 corridors. They serve as routes to get things in and out of China. One of them runs from Jilin to St. Petersburg in Russia. The second from Shandong to Denmark. The third from Kazakhstan to Turkey. The fourth from Hainan to Malaysia. The fifth from Guangdong to Bangladesh. And the sixth corridor runs from Xinjiang straight through the buckle of this economic belt, Pakistan. The flagship project of BRI, this is the CPEC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. It's where the economic belt meets the maritime road. It's a win-win deal for Beijing. This corridor means a strategic outlet to the Arabian Sea, a new alternative route for oil and gas through West Asia. For Islamabad, it means money and development. Pakistan, as you know, is not a popular choice for investments. China is exploiting this. It is building a vast network of highways, railways, and hydropower stations in Pakistan. The total cost of these projects is estimated to be $62 billion. That's nearly 1/4 of Pakistan's total GDP. But who is funding these projects? They're being financed by heavily subsidized loans. Who gives these loans? Chinese banks. Who gets these loans? The government of Pakistan. Last we checked, these loans were worth $5.8 billion. They accounted for 5.3% of Pakistan's total foreign debt, had an interest rate of 2%, and a repayment period of 20 to 25 years. What happens if Pakistan fails to pay these loans on time? It will have to lease out the projects or ports to China, meaning China will control the projects. And this is where things get murky. You see, the BRI is not a gift. It is a debt trap, a means to lure developing nations into borrowing more than they can afford. Once they are buried under this debt, you enslave them by seizing strategic assets as collateral. It's already happening around the world. The Gwadar port in Pakistan has been leased to China for 40 years. The Obok military base in Djibouti has been leased for 10 years. Tajikistan had to cede more than 1,000 square kilometers of land for a petty loan. Laos had to let go of its entire national electric grid to a Chinese company. The Hambantota port in Sri Lanka has been leased to China for a period of 99 years. Same with the Malacca Gateway in Malaysia, in Chinese control for 99 years. That's the same amount of time, by the way, that the British leased Hong Kong for in 1898. Almost every BRI member nation is saddled with predatory Chinese loans. I have a report with me. It is by the Center for Global Development. It says 23 BRI member nations are at risk of significant debt distress. And out of them, 8 countries are at heavy risk. They can end up owing half of their foreign debt to China. Now look very carefully at these countries. This map tells you how the BRI has been a hit where democracy is weak or has seen challenges. What's their excuse for sinking in Chinese debt? The promise of sparkling new infrastructure, but at what cost? These countries are caught in a vicious cycle of debt. They take loans to repay interest on previous loans. They're compromising on their sovereignty and making China richer. The biggest construction companies in the world are Chinese. They have been awarded $340 billion worth of contracts. The richest banks in the world are Chinese. The China Development Bank is involved in 400 projects in 37 countries worth $110 billion. The Industrial and Commercial Bank of China is involved in 212 projects worth $67 billion. There are new jobs for Chinese workers globally. How is this helping China's economy? Well, here's the twist. The BRI is expected to grow China's economy, China's GDP, by only 0.1% over the next 5 years. What does this tell you? That economy is just one piece of this puzzle. The second one is strategy. Through the BRI, China is also building at least 9 strategic ports. This is the string of pearls strategy. China is establishing naval bases, or as it likes to call them, sea pearls in the Indian Ocean and beyond. These bases would allow China to maintain contingents far from home, station warships, control shipping routes, dictate trade rules. It's not just an economic plan, it's a plan to dominate the world. The completion date of each project is 2049. That's 28 years from now. Why 2049? Because it marks the 100th anniversary of the People's Republic of China. The BRI's completion is meant to coincide with it. You know, the Communist Party of China has a thing for numbers and symbolism. Plus, it doesn't have to worry about elections every few years. Every time it plans forever. But this plan may not work forever. It is already crumbling, which brings us to the question, is the BRI sustainable? The short answer is no. China has given loans to countries which cannot repay, countries where the government is unstable or the security situation is precarious. Most of these countries are unreliable, as is China. The projects in these countries are running into trouble. Most CPEC work has been halted thanks to irregularities, scams and terror attacks. In Bangladesh, the Padma Rail Link project is facing a funding crunch. In Nigeria, there's turmoil over the prospect of losing sovereignty to China. Lawmakers are demanding a probe into Beijing's lending practices. In Afghanistan, the national debt is mounting. Kabul has seen the pitfalls and said no to any further Chinese loans.
Belt and Road is not a grant initiative. It's loans. Afghanistan cannot take loans. We can only take grants.
Then we have Europe. Countries like Romania, Lithuania, Slovenia, Croatia and the Czech Republic either want to terminate BRI projects or have started blocking Chinese investments. Better late than never. These countries are still technically part of the BRI, but most of them are wary. India, on the other hand, refused to join China's grand plan and gave this grand launch in 2017 a miss. Within weeks, we had a border standoff in Doklam. China thinks it can arm twist everyone. Too bad, the tactics are backfiring, even at home. Chinese banks are cracking under the pressure of debt. In December 2020, a Boston University report said that China's 2 largest policy banks, the China Development Bank and the Export-Import Bank of China, have been forced to dramatically scale down overseas lending. By how much? By $75 billion in 2016 to just $4 billion in 2019. That's a drop of about 94%. What explains this? Dried coffers and pending debt repayment. According to another report, and listen to this, 586 Chinese banks and financing firms have been classified as quote-unquote highly risky. That's more than 13% of China's banking sector. Most of these banks are linked to the Belt and Road Initiative. The problems they face are endless. They're struggling with repayment schedules or with restructuring of loans or with economic distress in BRI countries and definitely with the reputational damage to China thanks to the Wuhan virus. So this is what we end up with. Xi Jinping's pipe dream of world domination. What started as one belt, one road is now one belt and many roadblocks.